At Father's Day lunch, my wife served me burnt food and served her brother steak, but what happened next shook the entire family. Please stay with me as I tell you this story, and if it hits you somewhere deep, if you've ever been humiliated in silence, don't just scroll away. Like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone, because I was alone for a long time, until I wasn't. It was Father's Day, my day. I'd worked overtime all week, not because anyone asked me to, because I wanted to. I wanted to give my family something nice. I bought a new grill, got ribeyes from the butcher, and even picked out a small gift I could pretend came from my 7-year-old son. That morning, I made pancakes for everyone, set up the backyard, and told my wife, Amanda, to relax. I was trying. God knows I'd been trying for years. Around 2 in the afternoon, I fired up the grill and started cooking. The steaks came out perfect, medium rare, juicy, rested just right. The sides were ready. The table was set. I was sweating through my shirt, but happy in a weird, hopeful way. I thought maybe she'd notice. Maybe she'd smile at me the way she used to. She didn't. I sat down at the table, waiting. Amanda walked out from the kitchen holding 2 plates. One was a paper plate with a charred hockey puck of a hamburger sitting on it. No bun, no ketchup, no nothing. She dropped it in front of me without even looking. Then, with the care of a waitress serving a VIP, she placed the other plate, a perfectly plated ribeye with loaded mashed potatoes and grilled asparagus, in front of her brother Jake. He laughed and slapped her arm like they were sharing some inside joke. She laughed too, then leaned over to top off his glass of sweet tea. She didn't offer me one. I looked down at the black slab of meat on my paper plate. My throat tightened, but I didn't let it show. I looked at Jake, then back at Amanda. Something passed between them. Something that didn't belong between a sister and a brother. I didn't say a word. I smiled, because right then, something inside me clicked, and that's when I knew. This story wasn't ending today. It was just beginning. The Father's Day meal wasn't the first slap in the face, just the loudest one. For over a year, something had been off. It started small, the kind of things you second-guess yourself over. Amanda got quiet, not tired quiet, not stressed quiet, distant. She'd spend hours in the other room on her phone, always with her screen tilted away. At first, I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed with work or parenting. We all go through rough patches, but then came the nights out. At first, it was once or twice a month, just catching up with the girls. Then it turned into once a week, then twice. Always dressed up, always vague about where she was going. I asked her, gently at first, "Everything okay? You seem a little distant lately." She'd roll her eyes or sigh like I was exhausting her. "You're reading into everything," she said. "God, why are you being so insecure?" Every time I brought it up, she flipped it back on me, said I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her, that I was trying to control her. I started questioning myself. I'd sit there while she got ready to go out, convincing myself it was normal. I wanted it to be normal. I didn't want to be that guy, jealous, needy, suspicious. But then came the texts. Constant notifications, always with the screen face down. Sometimes she'd smile at them. I caught her deleting entire message threads more than once. She'd say it was just her group chat getting too crazy, or that her phone needed clearing out. I didn't buy it, but what was I supposed to do? She made me feel like a creep just for noticing. Then Jake moved in, supposedly just until he got back on his feet after his divorce. That was 9 months ago. He didn't pay rent, didn't clean, didn't cook. He just hung around, drank my beer, and somehow always had her full attention. I'd come home to find them on the couch, laughing at something on TV, barely noticing I'd walked in. He'd make little jokes at my expense, subtle ones that made Amanda laugh a little too hard. At first, I thought I was going crazy, that maybe I was insecure, but deep down, I knew what it felt like to be slowly pushed out of your own life, like you're being replaced, while everyone pretends everything's fine. So yeah, that burnt hamburger on Father's Day didn't come out of nowhere. It was just the final straw, the public confirmation of what I already knew in private. And the worst part? She wanted me to notice. She wanted me humiliated. She thought I'd eat it, smile and say thanks, just like always. She didn't know I was done pretending. Jake showed up with a duffel bag and a hangdog expression. Said he just needed a place to crash for a week or two while he got things sorted after the divorce. I didn't love the idea, but Amanda gave me that look, the one that says, "Don't fight me on this." So I didn't. I told him he was welcome, assuming we'd have our house back in a couple weeks. That was 9 months ago. He didn't pay rent, didn't offer to, said he was between jobs, which apparently meant sitting on my couch all day watching Netflix and leaving dishes in the sink like we had a maid on staff. Half the time I'd get home from work, he'd be in the kitchen eating food I bought, wearing clothes I was sure I hadn't seen him own when he moved in. The guy was like mold, showed up quietly and then spread everywhere. What really got to me, though, wasn't the freeloading. It was how Amanda changed around him. When she was with me, she barely spoke unless it was to criticize. But around him, her face lit up. She'd laugh, this deep, breathless laugh I hadn't heard from her in years. They whispered to each other behind closed doors. I'd walk into a room and they'd go silent, like kids caught talking about something they shouldn't. He touched her too often for a brother, hand on her back, brushing her shoulder, leaning in when they talked like they shared some private joke I'd never be a part of. I mentioned it once, casually, trying not to sound like I was accusing anything. Amanda snapped at me instantly. "He's my brother. What the hell is wrong with you?" She looked at me like I was disgusting for even suggesting something might be off. Jake kept his head down, didn't say a word, just smirked, that smug little smirk he always wore when I spoke up. I stopped trying after that. What was the point? Anything I said was twisted into me being jealous, controlling, or insecure. So I kept it to myself, but I started watching, listening, logging it all in my head. Jake wasn't going anywhere. He had Amanda wrapped around his finger. And no matter how much space he took up in my home, in my fridge, in my marriage, she made it clear I was the outsider. But I wasn't going to be for long. It happened on a Wednesday night. She was in the shower, and for once, she'd left her phone on the nightstand, screen up. That never happened. Normally it was glued to her hand, or face down and locked, even when she slept. I don't know if it was instinct or something darker, but when it buzzed, I didn't think. I just picked it up. What I told myself was that I'd just check the notification, just a quick glance. But when I saw the name, Jake, my chest tightened. Not Mom, not a girlfriend from work, not even some vague guy name that could have been anyone. Jake. And the preview? A heart emoji. I unlocked it. Her passcode hadn't changed. That almost hurt more than what I found. Like part of her wanted to be caught. Like she thought I was too pathetic to even look. The texts were recent, flirty, intimate, late-night messages, pet names, inside jokes. "You smell like sin tonight. I miss your skin on mine. Last night was dangerous. We have to be more careful." There were pictures too. Some just selfies, some not. Her in a towel, her not in a towel. One of them in bed, our bed, tangled in sheets that were still in the laundry bin when I got home that day. I kept scrolling, heart thudding in my ears. The deeper I went, the worse it got. Voice messages, references to things they'd done in places I worked hard to pay for. Her calling him baby, him calling her my girl. I sat there frozen, not even breathing, not sure if I was furious or if I was just broken. This wasn't just cheating. This was betrayal in its ugliest form. They weren't even trying to hide it that well. And I knew, then and there, that Jake wasn't her brother. He never had been. The whole he's like family thing had just been a cover, a way to make his constant presence unquestionable. They'd brought the lie into my home and let it rot everything from the inside out. I put the phone back where I found it before she came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her like nothing was wrong. She kissed my cheek on her way to the dresser. I kissed her back, but inside, something cold had started to form. They thought I was blind. They had no idea I'd finally opened my eyes. I couldn't sleep after what I saw on her phone. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with my jaw clenched, heart racing, thinking about every conversation we'd had, every touch, every lie. I needed the truth, not guesses, not assumptions. Cold, hard truth. So I hired a private investigator. I didn't tell anyone. Not friends, not family. Not even the PI's name went in my phone. Cash only, face-to-face meetings, just like he asked. He said it would take some time, 2 to 3 weeks. I gave him everything I had. Names, photos, timelines, even the phone number Amanda used to text Jake. He nodded and told me he'd get to work. The waiting nearly killed me. But the files he handed over? They destroyed the last pieces of denial I was clinging to. Hotel records. Dozens of them. Cheap motels off the interstate. Sometimes luxury ones downtown when they were celebrating. All booked under a fake name Amanda had used before. One I recognized from an old inside joke between us. Seeing her turn something intimate into a cover for cheating made me physically ill. He got photos too. Them kissing in parking lots, holding hands in line at gas stations. Her with her head on his shoulder at a bar, clearly not caring who saw. He followed them to a motel once, got a full time-stamped log of them entering together, staying 3 hours, then leaving separately 5 minutes apart. like amateurs. And the drugs, that part hit me sideways. I'd noticed her energy had changed over the past year. Manic highs, crashing lows, emotional outbursts. But the PI found evidence of cash payments connected to a dealer downtown, photos of her meeting someone in an alley, texts mentioning needing another hit and keeping it together before he gets suspicious. I wasn't just being betrayed, I was being lied to by someone spiraling out of control. But the part that shook me the most? Jake, or whatever his real name was, because the PI ran him too, and the truth was, he wasn't her brother. He wasn't related to her at all. No shared address growing up, no blood tie, nothing. Just a man she'd met years ago and slowly brought into our lives under the lie of family. A lie so bold, so calculated, it made everything else look almost innocent. I stared at the files for hours, and when I looked up from them, I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt ready. I didn't react right away. That's what saved me. No yelling, no confrontation, just calm silence, careful planning, and time. Over the next few months, I put everything together. Every file the PI gave me, every text I screenshotted, every receipt, photo, and message. I organized it all into a binder, clear and undeniable. I hid copies in safe places, one in my work locker, one at my cousin's house, one online, under a private folder. I waited for the perfect moment. Father's Day was coming again. A full year since the burnt hamburger and the steak that went to Jake. A full year since I smiled through humiliation. I told Amanda I wanted to do it again, said I felt like I overreacted last year, and I wanted to make things right. She looked relieved, said she was glad I was finally moving on. They had no idea. I invited both our families, mine, hers, even a few neighbors. Told them we'd be having a big cookout, lots of food, lots of laughs. Amanda helped with the decorations and drinks. I took care of the grilling. I made sure every plate had a perfect steak, each seasoned and cooked to perfection. I smiled, made jokes, poured wine. Even Jake was in a good mood, cracking jokes with her dad, acting like he belonged. I had the binder hidden just inside the house, tucked into a box I'd labeled old photo albums. When the food was served and everyone had settled in, I stood up with my glass and tapped it with a fork. Before we eat, I said, I just want to say how grateful I am for family, for the people who show up, for those who stay loyal even when things get hard. Amanda smiled at me from across the table, raising her glass. And, I continued, for honesty, which, unfortunately, hasn't been a part of this house for a long time. That's when I went inside and came back out holding the binder. Everyone stared as I set it on the table and opened it. Some of you may have wondered why Jake's still here. Some of you probably assumed he was Amanda's brother. He's not. I flipped to the first set of photos. Gasps, confusion. Her mother covered her mouth. Amanda's face went ghost white. I turned each page slowly, letting them all see the truth, the texts, the photos, the hotel receipts. This is who they really are. And just like that, lunch was over. The plates were full, the laughter light, and the mood felt easy. It was the kind of summer afternoon that looked perfect from the outside. The grill smoke had faded, the drinks were poured, and everyone had just started cutting into their steaks when I stood up. I tapped my glass gently with my fork. Before we get too deep into eating, I said, smiling like I had no weight on my shoulders, I just want to say a few words. Amanda looked up at me, still chewing. Jake, sitting 2 chairs away from her, didn't even bother looking up. My mum gave me an encouraging nod, probably expecting some heartfelt story or dad joke. What they got instead would leave none of them the same. I wanted to thank everyone for being here, for showing up, for sharing your time, and for letting me cook for you all again. Last year was awkward, so I wanted this one to be different, better, and I think it is, because today, I get to be honest. I walked to the patio door and picked up the folder I'd left inside, thick and worn, full of pain pressed between sheets of printed evidence. I brought it back to the table and laid it flat on the center. Some of you might want to stop eating for this. I opened it and began sliding the photos down the table, one by one. Amanda and Jake in the motel parking lot, them kissing behind a convenience store, screenshots of their texts, late-night love messages, dirty talk, plans to sneak around me. A few people gasped. Amanda's mum looked like she'd been slapped. Her father just stared, red creeping into his cheeks. Jake froze. Amanda's hand started to shake, her fork still halfway to her mouth. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I just kept flipping pages. I know he's not her brother. He never was. His real name is Michael. She told everyone otherwise because no one questions family. The table was dead silent now. Jake stood up, pale as hell, and mumbled something no one caught. Then he took off down the driveway, didn't even say goodbye. Amanda didn't move. Her whole body slumped like the wind had been knocked out of her, her face twisted. Not in guilt, but in panic. Pure damage control mode. Nobody touched their food after that. And I sat back down and cut into my steak, perfectly medium rare. The morning after the confrontation, I woke up before the sun came up. Amanda wasn't in the bed. I didn't bother looking for her. I got dressed, gathered the documents I'd prepared months ago, and drove straight to my lawyer's office. By 9 a.m., the divorce papers were officially filed. There was nothing left to discuss. The fallout was immediate. Her family, who'd sat at that table, who'd seen the truth with their own eyes, cut her off completely. Her mother called me the next day in tears, apologizing over and over for defending her. Her father didn't even speak to her, said he didn't raise a liar or a manipulator. I didn't respond much. There was nothing to say. She tried to spin it, of course, told friends and co-workers that I'd hacked her phone, that the PI had edited the photos, but nobody believed her. The evidence was too overwhelming. It wasn't one mistake. It was a lifestyle, a deliberate, cruel one. Then came the real blow. Turns out Jake, real name Michael, wasn't just helping her sneak around on me. He was also involved in the finances at her job. The PI had picked up enough for me to suspect it, and I sent an anonymous package to her company's HR department. Within a week, she was suspended. 2 weeks later, fired. After a full audit, both she and Michael were slapped with charges for embezzlement. Thousands of dollars skimmed off invoices and fake contracts. That was when the begging started. Emails, voicemails, notes left on the porch. Apologies, please, sobbing voice messages at 2 in the morning. She said she'd lost everything. She said I was the only one who ever truly cared about her. She said she made a mistake. I never responded. Her lawyer tried to fight the custody terms, but no one would take her case seriously, not after what I submitted. The court sided with me without blinking. Sole custody, full rights. She was granted supervised visits once a month. She didn't even show up for the first 3. People say revenge is messy, loud, chaotic, but this was clean, surgical. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I just waited, exposed her, and let her world fall apart by the weight of her own choices. I served her nothing cold, but the truth, and she never saw it coming. A year later, Father's Day came around again. The same backyard, the same old grill, the same wooden table I'd sanded down myself when we first moved in. But everything else had changed. The chaos, the tension, the silent resentment that used to hang in the air like smoke. Gone. In its place, there was peace. Real, quiet, earned peace. I stood over the grill, flipping 2 thick ribeyes, seasoned just right. One for me, one for my son. He was older now, more aware of what had happened, but still protected from the worst of it. He didn't ask about her anymore, didn't ask why she didn't call. And honestly, I was grateful. Some questions don't deserve answers. We sat down together, just the 2 of us. No guests, no pretending. The sun was out, the breeze was light, and for the first time in a long time, I felt okay. Not great, not healed, but okay. And that was more than enough. He told me about school, about a project he was working on with his friends. He asked if we could go fishing next weekend. I said yes without hesitation. I was no longer tied to anyone who drained me, no longer walking on eggshells, no longer doubting what I saw or felt. I cut into my steak, perfectly medium rare, juicy, tender, seasoned with real effort, not burnt, not slapped together. It wasn't about the food, really. It was about the care I gave myself, the time I put into something that used to be ignored or weaponized. That steak was a quiet symbol. I made this for me. I matter too. I looked at my son, laughing at some dumb joke he'd made, ketchup on his chin, and in that moment, I felt more like a father than I ever had. People think revenge is fire and fury, shouting, slamming doors, dramatic exits. But the real victory is peace. It's silence where there was once shouting. It's the absence of lies, of manipulation, of walking into your own home and bracing for impact. She took a lot from me. Years, trust, a version of myself I'll never fully get back. But she didn't take this. Not the quiet, not the calm, not the steak, not Father's Day. I'm not telling this story to brag. There's nothing to celebrate in watching your marriage collapse or finding out the person you loved was lying to your face every day. I'm telling it because I know someone out there is in the same spot I was, confused, second-guessing themselves, being told they're too sensitive, too paranoid, too dramatic. If someone makes you feel like a burden just for wanting respect, that's not love. If they mock your concerns, twist your words, or make you question your own memory, it's not in your head, it's a message, and you need to hear it clearly. The signs were always there. The cold dinners, the silence, the way I was treated like a guest in my own home while another man got the smiles, the attention, the best cut of steak. I told myself it would pass, that I just needed to be more patient, more understanding. I told myself that because I didn't want to believe what was right in front of me. So if you're in that place now, I'm asking you to stop explaining things away, start documenting, start watching, and if it all unravels, don't explode. Stay calm, get the facts, take your time, walk away with proof and dignity, and then let the truth do the rest. You don't need revenge in the Hollywood sense. What you need is clarity, peace, the kind that comes from taking your life back, inch by inch. Do you think I made the right choice by exposing everything in front of both families, or should I have handled it more privately? Was my quiet revenge enough, or would you have done more? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more real stories like this, full of drama, betrayal, and that satisfying moment of truth, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new one.